السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, I got a few minutes, so I just wanted to kind of open up the Periscope and just kind of keep everybody informed about our upcoming event, Saturday, April 20th, and that is the Islamic Leaders Convention. Islamic Leaders Convention, inshallah ta'ala, which will most likely be taking place in Washington, D.C. Inshallah. We're waiting for the confirmation for the venue. Once we have the confirmation for the venue, then we'll let everyone know exactly where the location will be. But we're most likely looking at having it in D.C. Now, I'm appealing to you guys now. That right now, what we've sent out to everyone who has emailed. The email is at the bottom of the flyer. This is not an event for everybody. This is an event for professionals, leaders in the Islamic community. This is not an event for everybody. This is not your average, hodgepodge of a lecture or a conference. This is not that type of thing. These are leaders in the Islamic community who are tired of the constant debilitating and destruction of our communities, debilitating behaviors, dysfunctional behaviors that is chipping away at the structure of our communities. These are people who are uniting with the ability, with the qualities and skill sets and the desire to make a change in the community. That is what this is about. As it relates to, opening up for, the larger, Islamic community, that is down the line. Right now, we need our talented 10th, in the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, right? The talented 10th, all right? We need the shakers, not necessarily the elite, not the elite. We're talking about people who have the ability to affect change. Just kind of looking to spy and see what's going on and don't really have much to contribute. That's a different venue for them. This venue is about people who have the ability, people with influence. There you go. Not the elite, people with influence. There you go. People in positions of leadership, people of influence in their respective communities. All right, this is not about, marriage, people, sisters putting on their best, showing up to looking to get married. This is not about brothers, putting on their hottest stove, coming, styling. This is not about that. This is about leaders, people who consider themselves influencers, leaders in the Islamic community, and that are willing to put the first foot forward, their best foot forward to make a change. And believe it or not, change is coming. I don't know if you guys are paying attention. I don't know if you guys are paying attention. We're not dealing with politics right now either. We're not dealing with politics right now. The Muslim community is not really ready for, at least the African American Muslim community is not really ready to entertain, the prospect of politics, and we're not ready for that. Right now, we need to fortify our communities. That's what we're doing. Fortifying our communities from things that let me just kind of get you. Yes, politics is very important. Politics is very important, but it makes no sense to talk about politics when we have no infrastructure. It makes no sense to talk about politics when we have no infrastructure. All right. So let me kind of give you guys an idea of some of the things that are going to be discussed during this leadership convention. The first and at the top of the list, probably the most important, is, the marital system, the way marriage works in a lot of masajid. From masjid to masjid, you will always find the way that marriage works, being done differently in every single masjid. And this has created loopholes for some of the brothers who come home from prison and they're looking for a place to rest their head. They're not really looking for a relationship. And this is another thing, man. Sisters, you got to stop marrying these brothers in prison. You got to stop marrying these brothers in prison. This is part of the problem. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how many times your wali tells you, this is not a good look for you or whatever the case may be, you still go ahead and do it. And then after the brother does you dirty, which is, usually how those situations end up, then it's like you running back to the Muslim community looking for help. And it's like, how many people told you not to marry this guy? And so we're talking about creating a standardized operating procedures as it relates to marriage. Muslim men should not be able to just come home from prison and 3 or 4 days out of prison with no job, no direction, no purpose, and walk into a masjid and marry one of the sisters in the masjid. No. And they come with this entitlement because a lot of the brothers in the prison system, and this is one of the things that we're going to talk about as well, the prison to mosque pipeline. There is a direct pipeline from the prison system that these brothers are being filtered from the prison directly into the Salafi masjids. Because a lot of the chaplains, especially from New York to New Jersey to Philadelphia, a lot of the chaplains of the prisons are these hardcore extreme Salafis. And make no mistake, when I say that, I'm not, criticizing Salafiyah. I don't have a problem with Salafiyah. If you were to ask me what my Aqidah is, I would tell you that my Aqidah is Salafiyah. All right? And anybody who has ever listened to any of my lectures, I come strictly from the Quran, the Sunnah, the statements of the Salaf. However, where I lose a lot of people, where I lose a lot of you, is when I begin to take the Quran, the Sunnah, and the statements of the Salaf and the Sahaba, the explanation of the Sahaba, when I begin to take that and I begin to connect that to our current situation, our current environment. This is where I lose a lot of you. It's not the fact, he's a deviant, he warns against Tawheed. If you say that somebody warns against Tawheed, what are the implications of your comment? What are you saying? If Tawheed is the core foundation of our religion, and you say that this particular imam warns against Tawheed or tells people not to study Tawheed or what are you actually saying? Understand the implications of people's words. Understand the implications of people's words. I know where they're going with it. It's just you guys, that lay people that are sitting here listening to this nonsense, you don't understand how you being mind freaked. You don't understand how you're drinking the Kool-Aid and you really don't even understand that. And the sad thing about it is that one of you listening to a lot of this verbiage, or listening to a lot of this rhetoric, you will be the one that will be responsible for taking my life. Absolutely. It's not them. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. Truth goes through 3 stages. The first is that it's ridiculed. He's a deviant, he's a stray, he's this, the scholars are warned against him, he's a knucklehead, blah, 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 blah. First stage that truth goes through is that it is warned, it is ridiculed. So many of you guys have, chimed in on the ridicule of Shadeed Muhammad. Anytime my name is brought up in a conversation, people have zero filter when my name is brought up. And that's okay, because I hope you have a lot of good deeds, because Yawm al-Qiyamah, I will come to collect mine. Or will come to collect mine. So it's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Anytime my name is on social media, usually it's associated with, just the ultimate of disrespect. No different than what the Prophet ﷺ went through. And I understand that that's the blueprint. So I don't take issue with that. I take that on the chin. I don't lose no sleep over that. Truth goes through 3 phases. The first is that it's going to be ridiculed. The second is that it's met with violent opposition. Violent opposition, that's the next stage. And look what happened to Malcolm. Look what happened to Martin. Look what happened to all of our great leaders. Look at what happened to all great leaders, right, in the African American movement, and how they were killed by their own people. Huey Newton and the rest of them, look at all of the black leaders and how they were killed by their own people. And the sad thing about it is that you guys listening to this verbiage, listening to this rhetoric, he warns against Tawheed. How in the world can you still be a Muslim and warn against Tawheed? But basically what you're saying is that I'm a disbeliever. I'm a kafir. Basically, what you're saying is that I'm a kafir without actually saying it. You guys just don't realize that. You just, regurgitating the verbiage. Oh, he warns against Tawheed. Oh, he warns the people against the scholars. He's trying to separate us from the scholars. I'm not trying to separate. There's some scholars you need to be separated from that have been the cause of your dysfunction. There's some that you actually need to be separated from. That's the second. So it'll be violently opposed, right? Because people fear what they don't understand and they hate what they can't change. And the fact that I did not crawl into a hole somewhere years ago and just bury myself in the sand and just disappear like many other da'is, many other students of knowledge did, the fact that I didn't do that, it pisses them off. So the only way to actually get rid of me is to just remove me from Islam completely, make my blood halal. As one of the scholars, I think it was Abu Qilaba, he said, that no one ever went towards innovation, right? That no one ever begin to, gravitate towards a particular innovation, except that the end result of his gravitation towards that innovation is that they make raising the sword against the person halal. Because the only way for your innovation to continue is that you have to make the other person a disbeliever. You have to make the other person a kafir. You have to make the other person's blood lawful. You understand how that works? That's exactly what they did to Malcolm. That's exactly what the Nation of Islam did to Malcolm X. We have to ostracize you first, separate you from the crew, and then we have to make your blood lawful. But what they don't realize is that you can't kill an ideology. You can't kill truth. You can't kill truth. Allah says, "Ja al-haqq wa zahaq al-batil," that truth comes and falsehood vanishes. Inna al-batila kana zahuqa, that batil, falsehood, is constantly retreating. See what I'm saying? You need to snap out of the bid'ah and come back to Salafiyah. What bid'ah I need to snap out of? Let me block you. First of all, your name is Billy Bob 129. He's a Salafi. He's a Salafi, and his code name or his tag name is Billy Bob 129, right? You know that's not his real name, right? Billy Bob 129, mashallah. But he's Salafi, telling me to come back to the haqq. Yet you get on social media and you don't even have your real name. You're on social media and you don't even use your real name. But this is the shenanigans that we're trying to eliminate. So first, truth goes through 3 stages. Number 1, it is ridiculed. Number 2, it is violently opposed. And number 3, it is finally, at the end of it all, it is finally accepted as evident truth. But some of you will not figure out what I'm saying until maybe 20 years from now, after I'm dead and gone. Then you'll realize, oh, subhanAllah, this is what he was trying to say during that time. But you're about 2 decades behind. You're about 2 decades behind because you're so wrapped up in what the majority is doing. Allah says in the Quran, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, that if you were to follow most of the people or obey most of the people on earth, they would lead you astray from the path of Allah. The truth is never with the majority. The truth is never with the majority. Hence the Prophet ﷺ said, Tuba lil ghuraba, glad tidings for the strangers. The truth is never with the majority. So for all of you followers of the majority, I really feel sorry for you. I really feel sorry for you. Lost. You have no clue. You live life with no principles at all. So that is the thing. So a lot of the indoctrination of a lot of the brothers starts in prison for those who come from the prison to mosque pipeline. Because a lot of the Salafis, the extreme Salafis, they are chaplains. They can't get no jobs nowhere else. They can't work nowhere else. They want to work with places where they can wear their thobe 24/7 and they can continue, regurgitating their verbiage, regurgitating their rhetoric. You understand what I'm saying? They want to work in places like that. So they become chaplains in an environment where people, are serving time sometimes for violent behavior, violent crimes, for drug offenses. And most of their, rhetoric that they're spewing even in the prison has absolutely nothing to do with the social conditioning that landed those brothers and sisters in the prison system to begin with. This is how you're led astray even from the prison. They don't ever say anything about helping you going back out into society to help you avoid the same pitfalls and the same behaviors that landed you in prison to begin with. All you have to do is to adopt the moniker Salafi, to adopt the title Salafi, and in your mind, you are saved. And you could go right back out into the community and do the same exact thing. No matter of fact, when they come from prison as a Salafi and come back out into population, into the community, into the society, they emerge with a sense of entitlement because they have been told that all of the imams of the masajid are astray with the exception of a select few that they identify who they are. With the exception of 1, 2, 3, 4 imam, everybody else is astray. Everybody else is hizbi, everybody else is mubtadi'. And they don't even clarify, you calling me a hizbi. If I ask you, what is a hizbi? Spell it. Spell it in Arabic. You couldn't even give me the definition of a hizbi. Oh, he's an ikhwani. What is the definition of an ikhwani? They have just become terms. General terms that are used by people who, have their own agenda. And the only way, the best way to dismiss someone is to label them. Oh, he's a mubtadi'. You never even hear their why. You never even hear their story. You never even care to hear, what drove them down this path or that path. It's dismissive. He's a mubtadi'. He's an innovator. You know what I mean? He's an innovator. He's this, he's that. And when you hear those terms, it just means, red alert, stay away from the person. Stay away from the person. Never ask why. Never ask, well, what's his story? What's his why? What drove him to that? None of that. You become very dismissive. So brothers emerge from the prison with this sense of entitlement and disrespect and disregard for imams who, even if they're not that knowledgeable, even if they're not that knowledgeable, they're doing their best. They're doing their best to try to fortify what is left of their communities. And these brothers come home and, I don't have to listen to the imam because he's astray. He's a hizbi. He's an ikhwani. He's this. Whatever they told you he was. Because you never go figure it out for yourself. You don't have enough intellectual freedom. You don't have enough intellectual liberty to go to the imam and ask yourself to find out what it is yourself. You let somebody else dictate to you, and that just lets you know what type of men you are. You will call yourself a man, and you let another man dictate to you who you should listen to and who you shouldn't listen to. I mean, you can't, for your own good, for your own sake, for your own conscience, you can't go up to the person. You can't go up to the person and have a conversation with the person. Why are the people saying these things about you? It concerns me because this is my masjid. This is in my local area. And I just want to know for myself, what's your story? What's your why? Nothing. So I don't have to listen to him. He's a hizbi. He's astray. And then they come home with this sense of entitlement. I need to get married because I need to save myself from the hellfire. MashaAllah. So because you need to save yourself from the hellfire, I'm supposed to stop what I'm doing. You don't have no job. You don't have no resources. You don't have a purpose. You don't have a plan. You don't have anything. But you walk into my office because you are a Salafi and it is your right to get married. Skip the whole protocol. Skip all of the things that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned by which we should use as a filtering process to determine whether you are qualified for marriage. Skip all of that. You Salafi, so that entitles you to marriage. And then one of these, unlucky sisters, unfortunately, I let me say unfortunate, for you say, oh, he said unlucky, and now, that's add that to my list of, deviances. Some unfortunate sister in the community is going to be married to this brother who just came home from prison because he's a good brother on the strength of the fact that he's Salafi. And he came from the prison to the Salafi community, adding to their numbers. And the fact of the matter is that for the Salafis, let me just say this to you. If you say that your ranks are increasing and, if 90% of your ranks are brothers who were previously incarcerated, if 90% of your ranks in the Salafi Masajid are convicted felons, that's a problem. If 80 to 85% of the men that are in your ranks in the community are convicted felons, does that not send a red flag up for you? I'm just curious, because it seems like the only people that you actually appeal to are convicted felons. You follow me? Where are the professionals in your communities? Where are just the normal working, hardworking, everyday African-American Muslims? Where are they at? Why are you appealing to? Because you see the pipeline, right? 85%, if I'm not exaggerating, 85% of your ranks in many of the Salafi Masajid amongst African Americans are convicted felons. You do the math. I used to lecture at the Salafi communities. I know what they're capable of. I'm not telling you something that I don't know. I'm just being completely honest with you. And if it's not at very least half, at very least 50% of your community are convicted felons. And I mean, like that, is that not a problem? And the sad thing about it is that the sisters, these are who you're marrying. Wallah al-Azim, you have sisters that are marrying brothers and you don't even know their real name. You don't even know their social security number. How you married to a man and you don't know his legal name? He told you his name was Abu such and such. That's not his name. He told you his name was Kareem or Abdul Kareem or Abdul whatever. That's not his legal name. You don't even know his legal name. No mail comes to your house in his legal name. You don't even know his social security number. Yet you married to him. My Zoj. Girl, bye. Go sit down somewhere. Are you serious? That's what you call a husband? That's what you call a husband? And then how in the world is he able to marry another wife and spend time with another wife and you don't know that that's going on? Like, how is that your husband? I'm trying to figure that out. How does a man marry another woman secretly and then he's gone for a day or two? What are you telling you? He on a business trip? What business? What business trip? Please tell me. I'm confused. And you just as much as part of the problem. Because when we trying to fortify our communities, you got sisters who go out and marry brothers like this, bringing these brothers, and then you have children by him. And once he's gone, he goes to find the next best thing. Now we are, now we're stuck with your disgruntled behind, as well as the children who don't have a biological father to take care of them. I mean, you guys are contributing to the dysfunction of the community. Is that not dysfunction? I don't know what it is. If that is not dysfunction, I don't know what it is. And I mean, like, when does it stop? I mean, I'm literally to the point where I'm just like, I'm ready to just wash my hands of the African American Muslim community. It's just like, really, man, it's ridiculous, man. When does it stop? And so by creating a set of standardized operating procedures as it relates to marriage, we can begin fortifying our communities so sisters can stop falling victim. You guys are the most vulnerable of our communities. If a brother comes home from prison, doesn't have a job, doesn't have a purpose, doesn't have a plan, doesn't have anything, and can get married in any Muslim community, marriage is not your right until you qualify for it. Stop this entitlement. And the thing about it is that the entitlement is dismissive of the needs of the women and the children that we are marrying these men to. It's like your right, your entitlement, your right to get married versus all of the needs of this woman. She might have been married previously multiple times. She got multiple children from previous marriages. And then the brother's coming home from prison. And we're going to marry, he's not ready to be a stepfather. We're talking about a guy who was incarcerated for 5-10 years. Let me tell you what goes on behind the walls when a man is incarcerated for 5 to 10 years. I was incarcerated for 5 years. I know what goes on behind that wall. I've walked into Muslim cells and seen pictures of naked women, of pornographic pictures on the cell wall. You walk into the brother's cell, you're like, yo, dude, what are you doing? We're Muslim, man. Why you got all this porn all on your wall? No, pay attention. Stay with me. Stay with me. Because if they are, 9 times out of 10, if they are Salafi, extreme Salafi, then they are not concentrating on the spiritual aspect of being Salafi. Pay attention. So the whole time that they are in prison as a Salafi, they're focusing on getting their waves, getting their outline, their shape up. They're working out, getting in the gym. You know what I mean? Their prison uniform, cuffed up, rolling your pants up, going to Jumu'ah on Friday with your oil, your Muslim oils and your prayer rug. It's all a facade. It's all a facade. Very few, a small fraction of those that are incarcerated that call themselves Salafi are actually working on their hearts, working on their character, working on their behavior, and thinking, focusing, moving with a purpose. As Allah says in the Quran, أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. Can he who was dead, to whom we gave life and a light whereby he can walk amongst men with a purpose? There are very few men that are in prison that accept Islam, that accept Salafiyah as their creed, and accept the Sunnah as their methodology, and they are working on their hearts. They're working on their souls. They're working on their spirit. They're moving with a purpose. Very few. The vast majority are just there for the fluff. I'm telling you what I know. And there are brothers who've been there for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 9 years, 8 years. You walk into their cell, they got pornographic pictures on their wall. You like, dude, like, ahi, why do you have porn pictures? Let me take that stuff down off of your wall. The same brother that has the pornographic pictures on his wall is the same brother that masturbates multiple times within a day. Masturbates multiple times within a day. I'm telling you what I know. Masturbates multiple times in a day. The same individual who has been masturbating twice a day, making a ghusl twice a day, masturbating, is the same brother that's going to come home from prison, that's going to marry you, sister, that's going to be in the home with you and your 14-year-old daughter, your 12-year-old daughter, your 16-year-old daughter. Same brother. Same brother. Same brother going to marry you, sister, and be in the home with sexually deviant thoughts because Shaitan is playing with his mind. Shaitan is toying with his soul. Toying with his soul. And it's only a matter of time before you and your children become the victim. I'm just being honest with you. While you go off to work and you thinking that, mashallah, your husband is Salafi and he's looking out for the best interest, meanwhile, Shaitan is playing with his soul. Self-deluded because they put so much emphasis on the look and who they're connected to and the scholars they take from. but you still have the heart of a wolf. You still have the heart of a wolf. You still have the soul of a wolf, and you're waiting for your opportunity to pounce and take advantage. All it takes is the right situation, right circumstances, and there you go. And these same brothers are being filtered from the prison back out into our communities. Filtered right back out into our communities. And the dysfunction just continues over and over and over again. So creating an SOP, creating a standardized operating procedure as it relates to marriage that will be shared across the board, Islamic centers, and understand something. When this happens, and it will happen, inshallah, when this happens, that means that the marriage rates are going to decrease. When I was the imam at United Muslim Masjid in South Philadelphia, when I was the imam at UMM, I instituted this same procedure in UMM. There was not, the procedure that was there before I got there was not as effective. When I came, I instituted an 8-point procedure that had to be followed. And anyone that was in South Philadelphia know that you were not walking into that masjid. You were not just getting married to the next day. And the rate of marriages decreased. However, the marriages that did take place were longevous, were healthy, and were supported by the community. You understand? Not just counseling, but we need to do a full out investigation of who you are. If you're not known in the community, if your parents are not actively involved in the community, and we watch you grow up in the community, then obviously we know you. We know who you are. But you come home from prison, we need to do a full background check on you. We need your social security number. We need to know if you're a convicted felon. We want to know what you were convicted for. We want to know your relationship with your parents. How long you've been a Muslim? Who gave you your shahada? Because we are essentially marrying you to one of the women in our community. And these women sometimes have children from previous marriages. And our main goal is to protect them and to protect the children, not to protect your right, your entitlement to get married. I am not here as an imam, as a leader in the Islamic community, to protect your right to get married. I'm not here to protect your entitlement to get married. I am here to protect, as the Prophet ﷺ promised, the two vulnerable individuals in our community, women and children. The Prophet ﷺ, the vulnerable in his community were orphans, because divorce was not that, was not to that degree. But in our communities, divorce is so rampant, the most vulnerable in our community are women and stepchildren. Stepchildren are very vulnerable, being shuffled from one house to another around strange men that they don't know. Their mom has only had 2 or 3 sit downs, and now this guy is now stepfather living in a home with them. Can you imagine how scary that can be to a child? You waking up now and this is strange man in the home. You didn't even introduce the guy to your children. You superimpose him on your children. Because that works for you. You're married. This is your husband. In many instances, a lot of these brothers are marrying sisters with children. A lot of these brothers are marrying sisters with children, and they don't even reach out to the biological father. I don't understand how you do that. How do you as a woman marry a man and you don't impress upon that man to reach out to the children's biological father so that the biological father is aware of the type of man that is around his children? I mean, at very least, that's the least thing that you could do, is to say that we are not getting married until you reach out to his. That's not my job to make that connection. You a man. If you a man and you're marrying a woman with children, it's your responsibility to reach out to the man, to the biological father, and make him comfortable that this is the type of home that I'm going to provide for your ex-wife and your children. Obviously, that's in a different time zone. That's when men were men. That's when men were men. Men don't do that type of stuff no more. We marry a woman, we whisk her off to some remote corner of the city or some, place, and, we have no connection with the biological father, and then a lot of times, a lot of you women, what you end up doing is shooting yourself in the foot because you dog out the biological father so bad to your current husband or your current intendant, right? He says, well, where is the biological father in their life? Nah, he ain't in their life. He don't do this for them. He don't do that for them, which is a lie. It's a lie. The reason why he doesn't do that for them is probably because you keep him from doing that for them. And so what that sends a signal to him. So he starts to say in his mind, okay, the biological father's out the picture. And now I can just isolate you on a remote island all by myself, all by yourself. And I can just have my way with you. You don't ever sell yourself like you're alone. You some damsel in distress. No matter how wicked the relationship is between you and the biological, no matter how the relationship is between you and the biological father, you still want the man that is coming into your life to know that these children have a father. And it's really sad, man. It's really sad. And as long as we continue to function like this, the dysfunction will continue. And so we are pressing upon Muslim leaders in the community, to create a system of standard operating procedures that has to be followed throughout. And believe it or not, if your masjid is a 501c3, there are certain legal responsibilities as it relates to marriage that you have to follow, which is why many Salafi masjids are not even connected with a 501c3. And even if you are binded. You are binded governmentally. You are binded by the government to have those marriages documented by the state, if you didn't know. So all of these contracts, these Islamic contracts that are being written up, and this stuff is not being documented by the state, it's wrong. It's wrong. Go check your bylaws for your 501c3. Go check your bylaws. And we about to put all of that stuff on the table. All of that stuff on the table. And create a standard of operating procedures that will be shared and used and enforced by Islamic centers, masjids, Islamic organizations around the board. You will not be able to get married unless you get married legally. And sisters, this is to your benefit. It's to your benefit if you get married legally, because when we get into situations where the brother says, well, I ain't divorcing you, I ain't granting you a khula. You know what? You don't need a khula. You don't need his permission. You don't need a divorce from the imam. Go file for a divorce legally. Handle it through the courts, because obviously he's not handling it Islamically. When brothers get to this point where they feel like they want to take, Islam into their own hands, you understand what I'm saying? When brothers get to that point, I ain't divorcing her and I ain't granting her khula. Meanwhile, she's entitled to both. She's entitled to both. Then go take it up with the courts. Go file for divorce. They have divorce lawyers for $399, advertisements all over the place where you go find, and you don't need his signature. They can force his signature. So you take the authority away from him because he is abusing the authority. He's abusing the authority. Toxic male entitlement. Not masculinity. Nothing toxic about masculinity. That's just part of our DNA. Biologically, that's who we are. We're masculine. Nothing toxic about being a man. But male entitlement can be toxic. Is toxic. Obviously, for polygyny, that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother issue. But we will have, I have reached out to a couple of lawyers, a couple of attorneys, inshallah ta'ala, that will be giving presentations there on that day about the legalities of Islamic marriages and how the 501c3s should be functioning according to their bylaws. And we will enforce that. We will enforce that. Absolutely. This whole idea of this brother, some random brother marrying you because there's two witnesses. Just to stop putting yourself in these risky situations. If you did not go through an imam, you did not go through an Islamic institution, then you should back out of that situation. Stop letting the brother say, oh, my man can be your wali. I got two witnesses right here and y'all going to just go ahead and do the marriage. And then when you send an email to Shadeed Muhammad, because I'm only a deviant until you need me, right? I'm a deviant until you need me. And then you send me an email saying, oh, I haven't seen my brother. I haven't seen my husband in a month or 2 months. Then guess what? He ain't your husband. You ain't seen your husband in 2 months. I mean, is it safe to even say that that's your husband? I mean, like, I just don't understand. And you steady gung-ho trying to salvage the marriage because I just want to salvage my marriage. I love my husband. Girl, you haven't seen your husband in 2 months. How you love your husband? I don't understand. Like, how do you love him and you trying to salvage your marriage? What marriage? You haven't seen him in 60 days. What marriage? Please tell me. Am I going crazy here? I'm just really trying to figure this out. Am I losing my marbles here? Maybe I am, going astray. I don't know. I'm just really trying to figure this out, man. I've seen some of the most dysfunctional situations and sisters are bending over backwards trying to salvage these situations. And it's like, I don't get it. But then when you got a brother who's actually trying to treat you right and do the right thing, you run all over him. But let Abdullah, Muhammad, or Fulan, Abu Fulan, a Salafi come along and, do you dirty, then you bending over because I love my husband and I just want to save my marriage. Save your marriage from what? Stop trying to save your marriage and save your damn self. Stop trying to save your marriage and save yourself. Best advice, if I ain't say nothing else for the past 41 minutes that I've been talking, best advice, stop trying to save your marriage and save your damn sanity. Because you've obviously lost all your scruples, man. There's nothing there to save. I'm just being honest with you. So, this whole prison to masjid pipeline, it's real. It's real. And you look at many of these, tell me if I'm lying. You have many of these Salafi community, at least half of your community are convicted felons. At least half. And many of them still involved in criminal behavior. How you an imam of a Salafi community and the people, your entourage, the people that are around you are known criminals. Known criminals. And you okay with that. And then you mount the minbar with your white thobe on every Friday. And, you're talking this and you're talking that. But you look at the people. And then you have the audacity. You have the audacity to tell people, oh, a man is on the religion of his friend. Guess what, genius? That applies to you too. Look at your friends. Look at the people that you associate with. Look at the people that you hang around. And then you have the audacity to browbeat everybody else with that hadith and using fear. Here again, using fear. Be aware. So now got you looking at the person that's next to you. This person been your friend since you guys were in the sandbox. Got you looking at them strange because you're on the religion of your close friend. So let everybody be aware who they take as a close companion. So you got you looking at your close friends, monitoring them to make sure that, they're not influencing you negatively. Meanwhile, the person who is giving you this hadith, the person who is narrating this to you, is surrounded by criminals. I don't understand you guys. Honestly, you guys are going to drive me crazy. The Muslim community, you guys, I don't understand you. I really don't. I'm really trying hard to figure all of this out. I lose sleep at night trying to figure out what in the world is the problem. Why are these things so commonsensical, yet we just can't seem to wrap our heads around it? It's like almost like we've been dysfunctional for so long. That's all we know is dysfunction. That's all we know is dysfunction. We've been dysfunctional for so long. All we know is dysfunction. We've become comfortable with the dysfunction. We've normalized the dysfunction. One of our children can be murdered, Muslim child killed. We pray janazah over him and go to work tomorrow like nothing ever happened. Qadr. We've normalized dysfunction. We've become desensitized to things that, had these things been happening 30 years ago, the Muslim community would have been in outrage. The Muslim community would have been outraged had this happened 30 years ago. And today it can happen. We go to the janazah, we go to work tomorrow.